Anka, unmute.
Hello, everybody. I'm Anka. Welcome. We are today meeting for the Standout in Event Freelancing webinar. Together with me is 𝙧𝙤𝙤𝙜 and Anka Trifan. Hey.
Hello, hello.
Hello, so excited to be here. This is our first power pitch event. I'm also joined here by our receptionist who is looking out the window to make sure that we don't have anybody coming up here that we don't need. But you know who we do need is our amazing, incredible first speaker. Anka, who have you got for us today?
We have 𝘠𝙤𝙤 Moles. She is amazing. She helped me a lot. And the point of this entire discussion is how to make our brand unmissable. 𝘠𝙤𝙤 is an expert. She will really help everybody level up our brand messaging. And she will teach us how to write our messages and for our websites, for our LinkedIn. So we attract the clients who are looking for precisely us and our services. So this
I love it. Super excited about the conversation. But before we get her on the screen, actually, I want to know where everybody's tuning in from. So if you're joining us on LinkedIn or on YouTube, tell us in the chat, where are you joining us from? I see there's some wonderful people already showing up on this side of the screen where I'm keeping an eye on where everybody is tuning in. Excited about the session. And I'm going to pop a few of those on the screen because we want to hear from you guys. I mean, the reason why we're doing this in the first place is because I feel like there's so many of us that would love a bit of advice on personal branding, messaging. What do you say, ladies? Are we ready to bring 𝘠𝙤𝙤 in here?
Well, we can, but I have one more question for you. So Anka is producing this for us. So would you tell us a little bit about what you have going on here? Because every time I get on StreamYard, it doesn't look like this. What are you doing for us to make this look so incredible?
Well, let me just say, I'm in between quite a few screens. So if you see me just go and look in different places, it's because I have several things going on. I am a big fan of StreamYard only because there's so much branding that can be done with StreamYard. Now, I know you do that amazing that show and you have a whole production team behind it. I totally understand the work that goes into that and the layers that a well-rounded, well-done production takes. We're doing more of a simpler approach to that. So we have different overlays. We have different comments that we're going to put on the screen. And I'm excited to see some people commenting, even from Germany. We have from Boston, Canada, Plymouth, Las Vegas, Greenville. Oh my gosh. Yeah, there's a lot going on. I'm wondering who's joining us the farthest. Do you guys think it's Germany?
I think it might be Belgium. Well, that's true. You are in Belgium.
Belgium, it's you.
It's me.
Well, I
That's
can't
awesome.
really tell for sure, so we're gonna have to take you at your word.
Yeah, exactly. We
Okay,
should do a
so
map
Power
next
Pitch
time.
event though, I do want to level set for everyone. I know the folks that have joined may know this, but what this is really about November 5th, 6th, and 7th, which is going to be a matchmaking program. So 3 full days of hirers and freelancers being able to set meetings with each other to network and get to know each other and potentially collaborate on future projects. So leading up to November 5th, 6th, and 7th, we have these series of webinars. So today is our first one for the freelancer side about personal branding. And then we have on Wednesday or Thursday. When's our next one, Anka?
Thursday. Every
Thursday the
Tuesday and
17th.
Thursday.
Every Tuesday and Thursday. So Tuesdays are our freelancers, Thursdays are for hirers. So if you work with agencies that hire freelancers, encourage them to come in here and listen to the webinars as well, get active, and also to sign up for the matchmaking days. I think this is going to be so incredible for the industry. And thank you to both of the Ankas for putting all of this together.
Fabulous. All right, let's bring our guest in. Who's ready for that? Are you guys ready for it? Because I am.
Ready.
Lisa,
Yay, Lisa.
welcome.
Hello.
Welcome aboard, Lisa. We are super, super excited to have you here. This is Lisa Mullis. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
Yes, you are. Yep.
Amazing. Founder of Paraphrase Communications. And as Anka said, this whole conversation today is about stop sounding generic, start communicating your value, and how do you attract the right clients. Our primary audience here are the event freelancers. So these are solopreneurs and freelancers who are trying to hone in their message. And a lot of times what we hear is, I do everything. I can do every kind of event. You can hire me for anything you want, which gets them no business at all. So we need your help. How can they really narrow down and find those riches in the niches?
Yeah. Do you want me just to dive right in? Because I think
I would love that.
we've got a lot to cover.
Yes. So you know what? If you're ready to jump right in, be our guest and do so.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to go on mute and you bring it.
Okay. All right. Well, I just want to, first of all, just welcome everyone. I love seeing where folks are coming from. I'm in Washington State. So hello to my Pacific Northwesterners. And I saw somebody's traveling through Missouri. That's where I grew up. So anyway, nice to be here with you all. I also wanted to mention that my background is as a solopreneur. I've been in business for myself for over 20 years. So it's such a great I love entrepreneurship. I love small business. And so I'm just thrilled to get to be here with you all. And I absolutely understand the challenges of how do you niche down? How do you position yourself? How do you put messaging around the services that you are have to offer and attract right fit clients? So there's so much to cover when it comes to personal brand and messaging and all of that kind of stuff. So I thought today, since we're going to have a little bit of back and forth, right, Liz? You're going to ask me some questions or you all might be asking questions in the chat. But I also have some slides to share if there's like concepts that come up that I want to walk you all through. My background is as a graphic designer. So even though I, for the last 8 years now, I've been really focused on messaging, on the messaging side, copywriting side of things, I'm a visual person. So that's why I usually come with slides. So I do want to just set the stage for our conversation today, just to kind of give some context, because this idea of personal brand and messaging is big, right? Like that's what I said, it's big. It's a big concept. So I think it'll be helpful just to kind of get us grounded in like, well, where does that all fit into what you're doing in terms of all of your marketing efforts, your outreach, all of that kind of stuff. So I think that'll be a good place for us to start. And yeah, we're going to also, today, our goal is to do some live audits. So I don't know, Anka, how many people have sent in links for us to take a look at, but
I am precisely now going through the comments and we'll prepare a few pages for us to analyze. Okay, we have Gabriela
Excellent.
who offered, so we will do this after you present a bit the
Yeah.
concepts, and then we can dive right
Okay.
in.
Okay, excellent. All right. So that's what we'll be doing. So yeah, just as a little bit more background of me, I grew up in small business. My family had a lot of small businesses as I was a kid, but the main one was a fireworks business. So this is me at age like, I think I'm 11 or 12 here. And I learned a lot growing up in a family with small business. I learned a lot from my dad, who's just a natural marketer. And I think that instilled in me just this love that I have for like what we are all here are doing. And so like as I mentioned, I started my career in design, but I also went to school and was trained as a copywriter. So then I kind of switched focus about 8-9 years ago to really focus on the copy. And so I feel like I've been in this constant conversation, this constant marketing for my businesses and clients' businesses for the last 20 years or so. So that's where I'm coming from. And today I do work with people like you. I work with consultants, I work with creative professionals, I work with coaches. So all like service-based businesses. And it's really about helping people to attract right fit clients, budgets that are well funded, being able to regain time and focus when you're in your business, doing your marketing, all that kind of stuff, and then ultimately taking home more money. So that's a little bit about my background. Okay, so context. So here's the thing. There are 3 essential components for any business. It doesn't matter how your business is structured. This is true for all businesses. You need people, right? You need people who are going to buy your stuff, and you need product. You need something to sell. And then you also need a path to purchase, a way to connect those 2 things together. But people don't just show up. I mean, usually they don't just show up in your world, especially like right fit people, right? They don't necessarily just show up, and stuff doesn't sell itself. So that's where marketing and sales comes in. So with that in mind, I want to share with you this model for how to think about where does like when I'm working on my messaging and thinking about my brand and all that kind of stuff, how does this all fit together? So this model is built on a foundation. This is level 1 here. I'm looking at on a foundation of getting clear about your purpose, your positioning, and your perspective. So just starting with that inner work, right? Of who am I? What am I about? What's my stance on things? So that's where it starts. And then you get clear about your people. So who is it that you want to serve? And so obviously a lot of people here are in the event space and serving. So you've got some clarity there, but even within the event space, that's a huge industry to get clear about. So as Liz was referring to, just like narrowing down specificity around your people, but also keep in mind that people can include collaborators. They can include your referral partners. They can include contractors that you might be hiring or working with. So there's a huge component of the people thing. And that's really important to understand who your person is. And I will say that just learning more about who the right fit people are for you is a journey. You don't just figure that out one day and you're done. It's a constant conversation and listening that you're doing, and you're always just learning more about that person. So then we move into level 3 here, which is product. So now once you've like got a handle on who your people are and what's going on for them, what do they need help with? That's when you can develop your services and your products around solving their problems. And then the last level is presence and promotion. So that's when now you're like out there in the world, online and in real life, trying to, attract those people and all that kind of stuff. So here's what happens. When you're early in your business, this is usually what I see happening with people who are early in their business. So if any of you here are new in your business, you may recognize that you're doing a lot in the presence and promotion, and maybe you don't have much clarity about like your purpose and who your people are and the product itself. So it ends up inversing the pyramid, which is not stable, right? So businesses that survive those early days figure this out. Like, oh, I really need to like shore up and get solid on who I am and who I'm for, right? And inverse that pyramid. But then as your business goes along, you end up in a place where your services evolve. You as a human are evolving in your business. And so the way that you're doing your work and what and who you're working with and all of that continues to change over time. But then your messaging doesn't always catch up to that. So I see this happen a lot where it's like, oh crap, all the stuff that's on my website and stuff is no longer relevant anymore. You know, it's not speaking to how I'm actually doing the work now. So this is a very common place for businesses that are, well into their business. And this is a big area where I work with people on, is like plugging in those gaps. It's like, oh, we need to now come back in and get that messaging figured out. So anyway, that's sort of these two models. If you see yourself in one of those places, then just know it's normal. And what we're going to talk about today will hopefully, move you further along into alignment around who you are, the people that you're wanting to serve, and how you want to be working with them. Okay, so I think, let me just advance here. So anyway, this is my model. It's called the Savvy Profit Pyramid for Messaging and Marketing. And that's an acronym that stands for Sustainable, Aligned, Values-Driven, Visible You. So those are like the values that I hold, and a lot of the clients that I work with hold. And if you can, be in integrity with those values, then you're in pretty good shape. Okay. And then one last concept to share right here before, and then I'll stop slide sharing so we can have some more conversation around this. But I did want to just also clarify this distinction between messaging and copywriting, because copywriting, you can go out and get templates and stuff. In fact, I've got a template for you. But templates only work as well as you understand who you are in your business and who you're for. So the messaging is the work that's like all to unearth all of that. And what happens is a lot of times, like the value that you inherently have to give is buried underneath the surface. And also you're so close to it, it's really hard for you to see what it is. So I'm like a miner who's coming in with the tools to help dig out the value and say, sometimes it's right below the surface, sometimes it's deeper in, but now we've unearthed all that raw material, gold, right? And like in reality today, like gold is like really hot on the market, right? So gold, so that's got value, but it becomes even more valuable when you turn the gold into something functional, like jewelry, coins, stuff like that. So that's the analogy for taking messaging and turning it into copy that shows up on your website, your LinkedIn profile, like all the places where you're showing up. So that's why I wanted to give you some context today for what we're talking about, because really, that, like I said, those templates and things are only as useful as you understand who you are in your own business and who you're for. Okay, so Liz, I'm going to stop there.
Yeah, so take me back to messaging and copywriting. Give me an example. If I am a freelance event professional and I can literally do every kind of event. I've done trade shows, I've done proprietary, I've done hospitality events, I can do it all. What is the difference between the message that I should be conveying versus the copywriting? Why is copywriting not my message?
Yeah. So, well, copy is a reflection of your messaging. So let me just clarify that. But messaging has to come first. It's really the process of answering the questions. There's like basically 5 main questions for any business. Who are you as a business? Like, what's your positioning? Who do you like? What do you stand for? Who are you for? That's your clients primarily, right? What problems are you solving that they have? That's when we get into the products and stuff. What's the outcomes and the results of you solving those problems? And then why should someone choose you over somebody else? Mm-hmm. Those questions hold true for every business. And that's the work of messaging, is really answering those questions. So when you have answers to those questions, then now you've got the meat to work with for copy.
Okay,
Does that
so
make
if I
sense,
take
Liz?
if I take the I can do everything and narrow it down to I am your resource for corporate events to help save you money without having to have a full-time employee to execute on a project basis when you need me, kind of
Yeah.
thing. And so I really like narrow down the who am I, what problem do I solve? Now my copy can be whatever. Like here's some examples of trade show cool stuff you should be thinking about,
Exactly.
and here's how you should do audience acquisition for your proprietary event, and kind of get to those things.
Yeah.
I really like that question because I want to piggyback on that with another question. So how do you balance showing expertise without overwhelming your potential clients with too much information? Because
Oh
I
my
feel
God,
like a
good
lot
one.
of us can do a lot of things like
Yeah.
Liz was saying, but that can be so much. And probably Aga
Yeah.
can identify with that. Like I can say a lot of things. It doesn't necessarily mean that those are necessarily needed. And by the way, anyone that's in the chat, if you have questions for Lisa, please drop them in the chat and we'll make sure that we get to those.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of good questions there. That is a good question, Anka. And in fact, somebody asked me that yesterday, and I probably hear that question about once a week or so. Like, how do I communicate my value without overwhelm, right? Like without overwhelm. So there's a few things to think about here. One is, who is, well, let me start with this. Where is the person at in the buyer's journey? And the buyer's journey is really the whole process that we all go through when we're making a decision to purchase, right? Something, right? And so some of you may be already aware of the stages of the buyer's journey, but we start at one end where we're like, I have never heard of this person before. I don't know about this product, all the way to, I think I'm ready to buy, right? So there's like various stages through that. So one thing to consider about how much information is, where is the person on that buyer's journey? If the person is very early on, then you really don't want to give too much information. You do not want to overwhelm them, because a lot of times what we find in service-based businesses is your potential client is already feeling overwhelmed. So we don't want to just contribute to that by giving them like just a whole info dump. And also it's not usually relevant at that point in time. So in the early stage, you really want to just focus on understanding what are the pressing issues for them right now. What are the current things going on right now, and speak to those like in response. So it's kind of like thinking about, how do I respond to what I know or am observing is going on with this person? So that's the ideal scenario. Now, when you're further in the conversation with that person, that's when you can give more information, and they may be asking for more information. So there's always a way, whether it's on the website, social, in a proposal, anything, there's always a way to pace out the information so that it's just not all dumped at once. So that's one thing to consider, is where's the person on the buyer's journey? Another consideration is, are you talking to one person, or are you talking to like a mass broadcast situation, whether that might be like an email newsletter, or maybe you're on social media or something like that, where you don't have, it's not a one-to-one conversation. In that case, you still want to think about, what are the problems going on with the people, and responding to those problems. And there's a lot of different ways you can share that information. I mean, there's obviously through text, there's video, audio, images, there's telling stories, there's sharing case studies. I think stories are extremely powerful for demonstrating a lot, and same with stories. And I do have a framework that I'd like to share that I think might be helpful in response to this question.
All right. Is this here on the slides?
Yeah, it is. So let me
Awesome.
let me advance through the slides,
All
because
right,
I knew we
let's do
wouldn't have, yeah, I knew we wouldn't have time today to get into all the things. And I'm happy to share the slide deck later if that's going to be helpful for people.
I
But
think somebody was asking about that. So if
okay,
that's
yeah,
something that you could do, it would be amazing.
happy to do that. There's a lot of good stuff in here that we'll see if we get to it. But here's what I want everyone to think about when it comes to like, how much information do I want to share or can I share right now? Just understand that it works like this. Like imagine your prospect are these little cave people who are like dragging this big box of rocks, and they're like, oh, and you see them struggling, right? Like and you're like, I have something for you. I can help you with this. And so you're like, here, I've got these wheels. It's going to help you get there faster. But what they're thinking about is, how can I lighten this load? Right? They're dealing with the heaviness of the box of rocks. They're not even thinking about the fact that a change of wheels would actually work for them. So in that case, when you're like, I got the wheels, they're just like, no, thanks, I'm not interested. Okay. So that's one thing to keep in mind.
Problem aware, not solution aware, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Thank you, Liz. That's a good recap on that. So so then, yeah, there you go. You're kind of like, okay, like I could help you, but you're not interested. Well, it's because they're in this, they have fires to put out. So that's why I'm saying to like, just really be observant and try to share things in response to what you're seeing are the challenges there. So then this framework that I can share in terms of like how to structure the organization. I think this will build off of what you just said, Liz, about problem aware versus solution aware. If you want to go back to the slide decks, I'll advance to the framework. Okay, let me go here. Okay, so here's the framework. All right, let me just tee this up. The thing is your prospect is wondering, can your thing work for me? Like, and will your way of doing it be better than the other things that I've tried or the other people who I've hired to do this? How can it work for me? And then in some cases, depending on like what is it required of your client, they might be wondering like, can I even show up to do what needs to be done? Am I available for this? Okay. So what you want to do is you want to address these things, because this is what they're wondering about. So one of the ways that we can do that is by leading with the problem. So going back to what you said, Liz, like being problem aware. What happens a lot of times is in our excitement about the work that we do and how we can help people, we go straight to solution. But we skip talking about the problem. So as I just shared in the little caveman example, they're just not going to be interested in the solution until you acknowledge the problem. So with any kind of content, you can use this framework, and it's called CASE because it's building the case for why your solution. So there's C is the current situation and consequences. So you can just describe whatever is currently going on. You can do this in a story, but whatever you see currently going on and the consequences of your ideal client's situation. Those are the pain points. The A are the attempts to fix it. Like, why is that not working? And why that's not working. So what have they already tried, or who might they have already been working with to try and do this thing? And why did that not work? In a lot of cases, when it comes to like those of us, as creative professionals and in marketing and stuff like that, they're trying to do it themselves. That's a lot of, the situation. So why is that not working? And then the second A is an analogy. So analogies are really powerful to shortcut the time for comprehension, right? So if whatever you're talking about is kind of a bigger concept or maybe is not well known, an analogy can be really helpful. So you can think about it in your mind as like, this is like, so an analogy I like to give when I'm talking about websites and stuff is often what people are doing to try and fix their websites is like putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg. It's like maybe a surface level thing, but it's not actually fixing the issue, because usually the issue with websites is a messaging to market alignment.
Lisa, could we take a challenge after this example, after the framework? Because I see someone in the chat having a specific example, and I would love for you to apply this framework to that.
Yeah, that would be great. So let me just finish this, and then we can. Does that work?
Perfect.
Okay. So then S is the solution generally. So here they are with their problem, and you already know what they need to do to fix it. So you can speak to that, generally speaking, and then your specific solution. So this is how you are approaching the fix. This is when you get to share your process, your results. It's really about where your offer comes in. And then E is the evidence of efficacy. So this is like the proof points that you have. So for those of you who have been working with clients for a while, you have case studies, you have testimonials, you have a portfolio. Like those are the proof points. If you're new in your business, you might not have those yet, but first of all, those will come. And you can also sometimes use data out there, research and stuff, just to kind of back up your point. So, okay, so I'll stop there.
Awesome.
And then we'll see if we can apply the...
Okay, so I'm gonna highlight something that Leah Wirth has mentioned. She says, here's a challenge. I want to try to put it on the screen, see if it shows up. Probably not the entire thing will show up, but I'll read it. My sweet spot is in B2B conference content. Conference companies understand what this is and the value of having someone with this skill set on the team. But non-conference companies and individuals who do events don't always understand what an event content person does and what value it brings. So it makes for a very tough sell. We have SMEs on staff, we have an advisory board who do the content, is what we often hear. How to quickly and succinctly communicate the value of having someone focus on event content who is not an SME, but is an event content expert on the team.
Okay. This is the framework to use, because what's happening is you're talking to somebody who is not fully up to speed with the value of just content, event content development. So that's what I understood from what you read, Anka, is that this person, they have some clients that are already in the space, so they get it. So therefore, they're like further along on that buyer's journey. But the people who are not in that space and don't really understand how that connects in with the problems that they have right now, they need some education around this. And so if you use this framework and really, again, lead with what's the current situation that they're in, what are the pain points around that? That's the consequences. Like there's always consequences of whatever state we're in. So if you see somebody and they're in a current state that they want to move away from, there's pain points around that. And so speaking to those things, acknowledging what they might have already tried doing. This is the A, right? The first A. What have they already tried doing and why has that not worked? And then if you can, the second A is an analogy. You don't always have to use the analogy, but it could be really helpful for someone at this stage where they're not fully on board, even with the idea of the content, the event content development. I'll just give you another analogy for this whole thing. It's like a dentist versus a doula. Everybody knows what a dentist does, so you really don't have to explain. Like there's very little education involved for a dentist in order to bring on patients, right? A doula, on the other hand, people are like, yeah, I mean, I kind of know what a doula does, I think, but there's so much less awareness around that the doula has to do more education about why even a doula in the first place as a first thing, then why them as the doula.
Right. Fantastic. Thank you for answering that. Another question that popped up here is, how can small business owners with limited resources create messaging that competes with larger brands?
Yeah. So I'm going to keep pointing back to what are the problems to solve, right? So you want to definitely make sure when you're in that space, when there are other options for your client, and they might be, big agencies or whatever, you still want to focus on what are the problems to solve. You want to look at what are the advantages of their other options. So trying to get in their mind to see, like, what are they looking at across all of their possibilities for solving the problem, which might include going to this bigger company over here and you, and just really almost kind of doing a side-by-side list of like, what are the advantages and disadvantages, and then what are your advantages in comparison to that. So that's going to help you to identify the distinction between the two. There's some other, I think there's other components involved in all of this, because a lot of times, like selling into bigger companies that would be working with big agencies, there's usually layers of decision makers involved. There's, the buying cycle can be longer. There's like a lot of nuance to all of that. But I think at every stage, just really looking at like, what's the pressing issue for the person right now? What are they trying to do to solve it? What's the appeal of some other options? And then how are you different from that? So that's a good place to start. And then I think there's a whole nother mindset component to this as well. That is, I mean, this is really huge when you're in business, is just where's your mind at with all of this? So if you're coming into a situation like that, thinking like, oh, I just can't compete because these guys have, all these other things that I don't. I mean, you're already setting yourself up for, not a successful go at it. So there's a whole big mindset component that needs to be addressed all throughout being in business.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions before? I see we have a few volunteers that would like their profiles reviews.
Yay.
Okay, who should we start with? I think Amy Marie was the first one. Would you prefer the website or the LinkedIn, Lisa?
Oh, either way is good. Yeah. We
Okay.
can start with
Do you see the comment? Do you want me to drop that in the chat so you can pick it up?
share my screen.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be
Give me
great.
just 2 minutes.
Let's share,
So I also open Amy's profile as well.
Perfect. Fantastic.
So we have also Colleen. We have
and Sina. Sina, would you drop your link so we make it as easy as possible
to go faster. And yes, we have okay, so let's start maybe with Amy. She was first. Yeah.
Okay. Amy
So
Marie.
let's with Amy. So I will share
Amy
my
Marie.
Amy Marie. Yes. Share screen. Amy Marie. Share.
All right. There we have it.
Okay. Anka, are you able to zoom in a little bit?
Yeah, go at the top
yes.
and zoom into the tab.
Okay.
Fabulous.
It's better?
Yeah, thank you. Yep. Okay. So Amy Marie. All right, great. So we have the first thing I always look at is, the header, right? Like the header image right there. I have got to guess that some of you all here feel similarly. Like that header, it's just like with anything, right? It can reflect professionalism, legitimacy, all that kind of stuff, or not, right? You might have run across this before where you're like, what's going on with this person? But Amy, yours looks great. So I love that you've got this header image of an event and stuff. So that just goes to support your positioning. And then the next thing I always look at is like, what is in your title, essentially that title line. So you have experienced meeting and event professional and project manager, visual hybrid meetings, okay, strategic, and then leader of teams, volunteers, large companies, projects. So the only thing, so that's great. So it's pretty clear you're in the event space. And you're a project manager and project planner. So I get that right away, which is good, right? Like, and because also that's the little blurb that shows up in other views, right? When you're inside LinkedIn and stuff. So you definitely want to make sure that that's there. So here's just a couple of suggestions. It's not fixes because this looks good, but one thing you might want to consider is if you want to put anything in there that's just like a little personal tidbit. So for example, I have in mind, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. So mine actually says Star Wars nut and it's at the very end, but you wouldn't believe how many people have either accepted a connection or made a comment about the fact that, oh, I saw you were a Star Wars fan. Me too. So it just gives you like a little talking point that makes you kind of stand out. Again, so we're like in this conversation today about like, how do you distinguish yourself amongst all the options? So that's just one little tiny thing you could consider.
I love that. I have a friend who, and all of her emails and everything at the end, it says on a mission to meet Ryan Reynolds. And so like, no matter who she talks to or when or where, it's there. And just like, really, why do you want to meet? And then she tells the story of Make-A-Wish Foundation and blah, blah, blah. It's like, but it's this great conversation starter.
It is. That's so great. I love that.
I
And
feel
I have
like
one
you're
question about-
attracting the people you want to attract if you add something personal like that, because like there's some people that are your people and there's some people they're just not your people, and that's okay.
Yeah. So I have a question on Amy Marie's profile. Her company, AML Events LLC, I notice on the top right that it doesn't have her logo on it. Like it wasn't built as a company page on LinkedIn, is what I'm guessing. Is that important? Does that matter? Should she go back in and create that as a company page?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, listen, in all the like long to-do lists that we all have, I would put that kind of low, in terms of priorities. But you know what, if you've got like 5-10 minutes in your day and you want to go ahead and setting up the company page doesn't take that long, and then adding the logo, it does make it look a little more legit, just in the same way that, having your profile pic there versus something else. So yeah, I would say if you've got time, Amy Marie, do it, but focus on.
I would say though, it's a whole headache if you started with a showcase page, which is not a company page, and you created content on that for years, and now you're trying to create this company page, which you start basically from zero. You cannot just transfer the showcase page to be your company page, because I've struggled with that. I went back and forth with LinkedIn several times, and I'm like, why is this process so difficult?
Yeah.
I have one more question, because this actually came up in the Club 𝘬𝐺 Slack channel of how important is it to buy a domain and have a company email versus a Gmail account if you're freelancing?
Right.
My personal opinion, I think it's important. I do.
That was the general consensus, but good to get it from an expert.
As somebody who hires contractors and stuff and have for many years, I always like that question pops in my mind is like, how serious is this person about their business?
Do we want to go any further, or do we want to take another profile?
Let's take another profile, maybe. Yeah. So we keep like 2 minutes per.
Let's go down the list. I think we had Julie next.
Julie, I have her. Share this tab instead.
Okay,
it's good. You see it?
Great.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, so Julie,
I make it bigger.
No, I can see. I'm just the font is a little hard to read for your name, but actually, I would almost reverse the prior, like the visual hierarchy of those two things. Like I would, if in your banner, if you're going to have that text, I would make your event executive with a history of creating impact, immersive experiences, and transform moments into memories. I would probably make that bigger than your name, just because your name's already there. But that phrase is a good phrase. There's some good opportunity there to get more specific with that phrase, like who. So this is one of the things I'm always looking at with LinkedIn profiles or websites. Like, can I tell who you're for? Remember, the event space is huge, and who within that space are your ideal clients, and can you call them out? Can you specify who those people are? So I would be looking for that. And then let me look at your title. Okay, event executive, senior leader. So those are titles in your title area. But I don't have any clue of like what you are actually doing. So I would advise you can still have some labels in there, but I would also include like some kind of elevator pitch type statement, like I help XYZ companies turn their events into experiences. And that sounds a little generic, but you get my point. So
I would
for
also
the
be curious,
sake-
because one thing I can't tell from the profile is, Julie, are you looking for full-time work, or are you looking to be a freelancer and pick up project gigs? Because the open to work banner, I think, can go either way. It can be like, hey, I'm open to freelance jobs. But then looking at the open to work where it says vice president, director, those are definitely more full-time jobs than fractional roles, I think. So I think maybe picking a direction would help. And then my question to you, Lisa, is should Julie actually off-center her header? Because no one ever sees that banner without that picture there on the left.
Yeah.
So should she read it and shift it a little bit to the right?
And to piggyback on that question, should that messaging that she has on the banner maybe be reinforced in her title? Because on mobile, you don't see the banner.
Exactly.
You see what's under your name.
On mobile, you don't see it. It's complete, and you need to check every time you do the banner. You need to check how it looks on mobile, because it's a completely different story there. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where, like, using that title area with the live type to either reinforce whatever you have as an image in the banner, or just to simply, or to elaborate on it enough that it's like it can stand alone as your elevator pitch. I mean, really, that's like a good place for your elevator pitch.
Fantastic. Let's go to Sue, Anka. Can we switch to Sue really quick?
So here is Sue.
Okay, so Sue. So, Sue, what I would recommend is also maybe considering your banner. Again, this is like a slightly lower priority because it's fine. Like, your image is fine, but it's not really doing anything to support like who you are, who you're for. And so then purpose-driven leadership and art and science of why we meet association executive. Again, I don't know for who, and what does that mean? Like, what are you doing? Are you a leadership coach? I don't know what art and science of why we meet is, although it makes me curious. And then, association executive, I'm not sure what that is. So I think just, again, as we've been saying, using that space to have more of an elevator pitch that clarifies who you're working with and the kind of results that you're getting. And I can see you're about. I help professional associations. Okay. Marketing experiences redefine their processes so they reach revenue and engagement. Okay. So you've got a little bit of that in your about. So you could move some of that up to your title area or the headline area. Here's the other thing too. You don't want to like totally eliminate your titles in the headline area, because that does come up in search. And in that like really truncated view. So you do want people to understand like kind of like the role that you have, but you want to follow it up in that same space with more clarity about who for and like what you're doing.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Anka, let's go to Arthur.
Exactly.
He's late to the party. We need a person like him to be part of our party, because otherwise I feel like we are very skewed on the female preview of all the pages. Like, come on, we need a presentation, full representation here.
I don't. Wait, give me one moment. Somehow.
I'm seeing so much
URL is
up
in
the chat. I wish we could be here for another couple of hours.
Right?
Exactly. This is so interesting. We should do this all day. Huh?
Yeah. Oh, great. Okay. Oh, okay. Arthur. So innovative entertainment starts here. Let's level up your event entertainment today. Great. Yeah. Arthur, your banner is great. And you have like a call to action, which I know that area is not necessarily clickable, but just the fact that you're like communicating that, I think is great. Open to collab. Oh, I hadn't seen that one before. Is that an option, or did you make that up?
I think.
I bet he
made it. I'm pretty sure he made it as the
brilliant.
Arthur, I already get a sense like you've got a personality like that. Like that's what I'm picking up here. Not at
all. He's the most boring guy you'll ever meet. So Arthur.
I'm already getting that vibe. So that's great. And yeah, and oh, I love that you're using emojis in your headline area. I do too. I'm a big emoji fan. Now, if you're not an emoji person, you don't need to do that. But I'm saying if you are, don't be afraid to throw those into the space. So I think that's great.
I love, and I just want to point out when we talk about shifting things over. So not only does he have the credibility stuff on the left, but everything is shifted over so that the face shows up perfectly. But then you also see the nice fedora with the some depth in the design there. It's just so inviting.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, like when I create my headline, I go through so many edits and I constantly check against different views to make sure that you have that visually shows right, no matter what device you're looking at.
Yeah.
I do mine weekly. So this week, may I show my this week profile?
Yeah.
Okay, you just gotta go with one. You're rearranging the chairs on the Titanic. Just leave
it. You can keep, I mean, that's the thing, is like this stuff is never done, right? You're always sort of tweaking and iterating.
Yeah.
I like that you're so blended with the event.
But I do feel like you need to leave it up there long enough to see an impact, because if you are changing it constantly, then then you're not getting the visibility. So I feel like weekly may be a little much.
Yeah, it's true. I know, not weekly, I'm exaggerating, but it's true that I stay around 2-3 weeks and then I change it. When I see no impact or nothing, I change it. Yes.
Yeah. A couple of things that came up in the chat. I guess people are going back and forth between this open to work, open to collab, open. Does that help your LinkedIn profile, or does it hurt it? Does it come across as desperate versus you're really out there putting yourself out there?
Yeah. I mean, my opinion on that, like the open to collab to me is, I feel like that speaks more to like a contractor type of co-arrangement versus open to work. Then I do think that that's someone that's probably looking for an employee type position.
I wish LinkedIn offered the open to collab option as a banner versus you have to go and create your own.
That's right, LinkedIn. Let's all do this. Maybe they do it. Because it's true that the freelancer market is very wide in all fields. And there are, I mean, what I see on my feed all day, it's mostly freelancers. Yes, but in all fields, the fields that I never looked for. So it is a very wide market, and open to collab might be a very good move for LinkedIn, in fact. Yeah.
Well, and I want to just pick up, I saw a comment from Sean here about, and I guess in response to someone else's comment, it's perceived differently across many arenas. And actually that's like a good umbrella thing to keep in mind, is ultimately it doesn't matter what I think or what Anka or Liz thinks. It matters what your ideal client thinks. So if in the space that you're targeting, they're all like, oh yeah, I like to know if they're open to work versus open to collab, or if they like emojis or not, blah, blah, blah. Like any of those things, it really doesn't matter what we think. It's all about what your people think. So just always going back to really like understanding who they are, what they're looking for, what are the problems that they are trying to solve, so that you can respond to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just can't understand the psychology behind someone saying the open for work banner is wrong. Like, it makes you look desperate. Okay, we need money. Like, I don't understand what's wrong with saying I am open to be hired.
If nobody knows you are out there searching.
Exactly.
Agreed.
All right. As we're coming to a close here with just a few minutes left, Lisa, I want to hear your 2 or 3 takeaways from this conversation. And then we should also mention our main event. Anka, if you want to end with that would be fantastic. But let's go with what should anyone that joined us today or tapping into it on demand should be left with?
Okay. So first thing, just as a reminder about how important it is to speak to those problems that are going on. Like, identify what are the problems that your ideal people have, so that you can respond to those and lead with that in a lot of your content. So using that case framework. And then one other, I didn't cover this today, but it's really important. And it does kind of tie back into the comment about mindset, is when you're in business for yourself, there's an identity shift that has to happen where you see yourself as a marketer who does event planning. You're a marketer who does event content development. You're a marketer who does event project management. Whatever it is, the thing that you actually do, you're a marketer first, because that allows you to see yourself in a place where that's just always, it's just a part of how you operate. It's a part of who you are. And therefore marketing becomes core instead of a chore. And I know there's a lot more we could talk about just on that comment alone, but this idea of the identity is really, it really is at the heart of a lot of the struggles and stress that people feel about just doing the marketing and figuring out the messaging, all that kind of stuff. So those would be my 2 takeaways.
Well, we want to thank you, Lisa, for joining us, for giving us such great content. And everyone in the chat agrees that there was a lot of great content that was covered. So appreciate your time, appreciate your expertise in giving us your top level tips. Because I mean, this feels like should be a whole day seminar.
It could be.
We could make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was amazing. Thank you so much, Lisa. I really appreciate that. And for those of you joining us today, appreciate your time. And yes, this will be recorded, so you can go back and catch those tips again. And then coming up on Thursday for the hirers, if you hire freelancers, or if you are an agency, or if you're a freelancer that brings on other freelancers for your projects, join us on Thursday where we have, is it Rick and Sasha or Rich and Sasha, Anka?
We have Rick. Let's see,
Rich
Rich
and Sasha with PlannerNet. So they're going to talk about maximizing event budgets by tapping into flexible freelance talent. That does not mean that anyone's negotiating down your talent. It's talking about how you can actually use freelance talent in order to get more efficient events. And so if you're on the hiring side or you're pulling together your Avenger project team, join us on Thursday for the next round. And then every Tuesday and Thursday for the next few weeks until November 5th, 6th, and 7th, which is our big 3 matchmaking days to bring hires and freelancers together to do business, because that's what this is about. Open for work, man.
We are all together on this, so share everything you see from us, because it's important we get this event out there, because it's for all of us. It means getting the education that we spoke earlier to organizations, that they can hire freelancers to unload the in-house teams, that they can hire freelancers for unique type of expertise and skill set that they might not find in their team. So it's all about hiring freelancers. Let's hire freelancers.
And I see a question of what time. It's 10 a.m. Central on Thursday for the next one.
It's the same hour every Tuesday and Thursday, the same hour.
Yay.
And we'll have this on demand, either on YouTube or LinkedIn to review if you missed it. One thing I was going to add, Colleen, we apologize we didn't get to your profile. I'm wondering if Lisa might do that on privately through via DM. It's up to you, Lisa. If you feel like you want to do that, we would appreciate it. For anyone that joined us, I really, really appreciate your time. And we look forward to seeing you on Thursday.
Yay. Thanks, everybody. Thanks again, Lisa.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.